alternate Jane Johnson. And we have a full board, so we don't need to see any alternates. The agenda tonight is review and approval of the minutes of June 13th, 2024. And we have discussions in other business, which is discussion A, which is Brown Memorial Field redevelopment. Stevens and Associates will be presenting that, and any other businesses may be required. So up to the beginning, we don't need a regional impact because there's nothing on the agenda that we're going to decide on. So that brings us down to the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of June 13th?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Brandon to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Victoria. Is there any further discussion, changes, or deletions? Okay.
Page 4 of 5. The modification site plan. Perry Lane. The minutes say that the hut will be placed behind the fence to the west of the property. The hut will be to the east side of the fence.
I think they meant the fences to the west of the property. And but that's not what's worded. You'd rather it be worded differently?
Well, it says the hut is placed behind. But can't be behind.
Behind the fence that is west of the property. The fence is west of the property, so it's behind it. But I say you want to change, just change the wording now if you want.
But all I would say is that that the hut would be placed to the east side of the fence.
Okay, hut would be placed to the east side of the fence. Anything else? Okay, so if nothing else, then all those in favor of approving the minutes with those changes, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? They're approved. And that brings us to the discussion of another business, which is the Brown Memorial Field redevelopment. And this is Stevens and Associates going to give the presentation, and anybody who can't see the chart, just bring your seats accordingly. They're going to present it on that easel right there. So you can just bring your chairs over here or however you can see that.
So, thanks everyone for coming out. I'm Taylor Schuldo with Stevens and Associates, chief architect. That's Serenity Gold, civil engineer, Stevens and Associates. So we were hired to work on a master plan for the Brown Memorial Field. And when we talk master plan, we're talking a very zoomed out, broad scale version of a plan of what it could be down the road. This is in no way a site plan that's ready for construction or anything along those lines. So what we're hoping to do today is we work on a final report, and we presented that to our team that we've been working with. And we just wanted to give a quick summary or presentation of the work that we've done to date so far. Anything else?
Yeah, we want to recognize Stefan and Michael and Ashley as the main components from the town that we worked with, along with Joe as well. So thank you guys so much.
Just before we get started, would you just orient that for everyone here? Just orient it where the streets are and that stuff, just to point out
Sure
what
thing.
we're looking at.
Yep.
We're going to walk you through a series of images so that we can walk you through the process that we went through with the town. And so the last picture will actually be the vision that we came to based off of the input. So we're going to walk you through sort of the starting location. So the first thing that we did is that we started with a public input site walk, and then that led into our first public meeting.
So what we did here is we worked with the Keen GIS technician and got GIS data to make the site plan here. This wasn't a formal survey. So we took the aerial, the building outlines, the road outlines, property lines, things like that, the GIS systems, and made this site plan that you see here. So it's close enough for this kind of planning study. It's not super accurate as a on the ground survey. But to orient everybody, West Swanzey Road's here for 10 West Street. The Brown Memorial Field is here, and the property line for the Brown Memorial Field is the thicker black dashed line. And there's also this triangle chunk in here as well. The Historical Society building is here. The Cutler School is over on this side of the page. West Street runs along here.
In South Winchester Street, it's on this side.
So Brownfield is the entire location, including what is on Cutler School as well.
We,
Let me know that.
Yes,
we did look at scenario where we had developments on the Cutler School, but later decided to kind of focus on the core of the brownfield because the future of the Cutler School is uncertain.
yeah, so what we understood based off the feedback from the folks that we worked with at the town is that currently the Cutler School is using part of the property that actually belongs to the town. So that is part of the parcel that we looked at. Did that answer your question?
So the focus of our work was mostly this area within this dashed line here, this thicker black dashed line, including this triangle piece as well. So we had our first kickoff and site visit with the team back in November, which is where we went and kind of learned a little bit about the site, took pictures, understood from the committee what they were looking for. And then existing conditions, surrounding area, who uses the site right now, who they want to keep using the site in the future, different programming elements, things like that. And then there was some necessary improvements that they wanted to see done at the site, regardless of what design we came up with. Things like formalizing the parking, and the main ones were the existing recreation infrastructure, things like the lights, the scorer's booth, the storage shed, the bathrooms were outdated. And the dugouts, the bleachers, things like that need to be addressed. So this kind of brings us to our first community meeting that we had in January of this year. And what we did at this meeting was what we really wanted to present what we saw at the site, the surrounding area, the context, and get input from the public through voting, through discussion on what they would like to see at the site moving forward. And then so we made this map here, kind of, we call it our context map, showing what is surrounding the site. So we identified things nearby the site that were single family housing, multifamily, commercial properties, redeveloped industrial sites, town owned land. And this can all be seen with the various colors on the map here.
But you just say what the color codes are?
Yep. Town owned land is the yellow, so the stuff in here. The single family housing is this more peach color. Yep. The multifamily housing was the green ones. The darker green was the commercial properties. And then the pinkish was the redeveloped industrial land. And so the site was mainly surrounded by single family and multifamily housing. At this same public meeting, the first one, what we looked at was almost like a vision board or inspiration board that showed some ideas for what the site, programming items at the site could be used for. We weren't saying that they had to be this, but we were trying to get the thoughts rolling and see what people thought about what they want to see there in the future or keep the programming the same.
There was a lot of strong feedback and support for keeping and improving the softball field. Folks really wanted to see pickleball courts involved on the plan.
Yep.
Picnic areas, and then a playground area for different age groups.
And the dog park.
And the dog park, that came up as well.
So then after this, we kind of went back and started our sketching process. Because up to this point, we hadn't put any kind of pens on paper for any design work to be done yet. So we had the first public meeting that we talked about in early January, and then near the end of January, we had a round of concept designs that we presented to the town committee. And so you can see an example of one of them here. And so when we're doing our concept process, what we're looking to do is have varying levels of infill on the site. So you do one that's a low level, which is very more achievable, moderate, and then heavy infill, where you look at kind of doing the entire site. And then that's the end product is usually kind of an accumulation of all three. Okay. So then after we met with the town committee again at the end of January. And February 15th, we had the second public meeting where we presented our refined sketches to the public. And then, at that point, we were still at this kind of hand level, like this style that you'll see here. We looked at a number of different options throughout the site and got feedback on them. And then after that meeting, we kind of had a sense from the public what direction we were going with this. So that after the public meeting, we went back and refined the sketches again further, and then met with the town committee again to review these.
So we presented three options at the second public meeting. This is the first option. So this shows the light infill development that Taylor mentioned. So in this scenario, it keeps the softball field exactly where it is. It improves the lighting around the athletic areas. It keeps the multi-use field over here, and then improves the sort of the plaza and gathering area adjacent to the softball field. And it formalizes the parking and then provides the pickleball courts and a basketball court. The medium infill option rotated.
Yeah, we rotated the baseball field, the softball field. The orientation that's in now is not the preferred orientation. You kind of look to have this on the northeast axis to deal with afternoon sunlight. So we spun the softball field to the preferred orientation of this one. Looked at kind of a fan parking option, trying to squeeze as many parking spots in there as we can to handle events, days where the park's at full capacity. The U12 soccer field, and then another multi-use field and 3 pickleball courts on the site. And a dog park.
In the pavilion, cook shack, and then the play structure area.
And then, as I talked before, we looked at another option that was the highest level of infill, which was the most effort. And this was that one, which we moved to change the access point to center it on the property lines here, bring in a large parking lot into the center, and then have the activity kind of set up around that. So it's more accessible. You don't have to walk distances to get to the fields, things like that. And we also looked at this option at utilizing the school for some program elements. Things like connecting the roadway across the site. So they have a full loop connection here.
Yeah, so this is under the assumption that the school would have been transferred back to the town, and the town would be able to use this school property to support the programming on Brown Field.
There's one issue with that, the town may not get that school.
Certainly, this was just creative ideas, how to look at what were the different options that could happen. And one of the things that we heard in the first public meeting is that folks really wanted to explore what would it look like if the town had the opportunity to utilize that space. But you're exactly correct. And the feedback that we heard from our second public meeting was that folks were really kind of narrowing in on the second option, because it's not a given that the people actually be able to use that space. And so this was the concept that we then took back. We took additional feedback from the folks who came to the public meeting, from the town committee, and integrated that into a final planning level plan.
Then after we were able to kind of, like Strani said, get feedback, this was the proposed plan that we landed on. So the baseball field is oriented in that northeast location, keeping the original access that's already there on Route 10. You have a large van parking lot here, capable of accommodating over 100 cars just in this location here. Pickleball courts, we show these at tennis court size because the tennis courts are larger. That way, if we do use pickleball later, we know they fit. This road continues to the north and then connects to the existing access up here and over to the Cutler School as well. So there is a circuitous route through the site. There's a new maintenance shed near at the end of the parking lot here. We have a cook shack, bathroom, and restroom facilities on the site, plaza space, two fenced in multi-age playgrounds, which is near centrally located to the fields so that people can still see the kids while they're playing. A large soccer field, a multi-use field, basketball court, which is similar where it is now, and some landscaping improvements. And a walkway system around the site. That was the rendering, and then after we got the preferred option selected, we sent this out to the cost estimator and received cost estimate data back from that. And we worked on a final report.
Open the floor for questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
With single family homes,
Yes.
how are they protected from, I mean, fencing or privacy?
So I expect that there is some existing fencing along this edge here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No privacy.
so at this point, I don't think that there was additional fencing proposed in this, but I would say if this plan goes forward, that would definitely be something to bring up in refining this plan, is that there may need to be additional privacy fencing along this south edge. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay,
we don't want access into our
that makes
backyard.
total sense.
Absolutely.
Steve?
I feel a little bit like I'm late to the game. You've got some nice plants there. Is there room for a track, walking track, running track with exercise stations along the way?
I think that is something that could be integrated into the next phase of planning. There are some walking trails that we've suggested around to connect the various different field areas. And I certainly think that you could integrate in some fitness stations along these areas. Other questions? Yes, sir.
It's a shame that we can't incorporate the school property into this to some element, because it's such a vital part of that whole property. And you mentioned that we may not have access. Who owns the school now?
The school district.
Okay,
So what happens?
What is their purpose?
West Cutler School is closed by the
Yeah.
school district.
correct.
They have to post that on the state site, and other educational institutions have the right to that property first,
Okay,
such as a charter school or something like that.
really?
Yes, and I have contacted Ruthie Ward, she's the state senator. We're gonna try to change that legislation the next, if we can.
That would be fantastic. If we could try to figure out, even if it's a part of a future plan for this, if we could try to incorporate that property into this, as that would be brilliant. I think what you're gonna do with the property is fantastic. It looks great, and it's a lot of green space, and this town loves that kind of green space. And I actually own the fence company property that's right up by the right of way up there.
This one?
That, the one that's on, yeah, that one right there. And having the ball field down here is great, because I'll tell you, I've got barrels full of softballs. Tommy wants them back. But that whole, these guys can pile them right out of there. So having it set back there is great. It's probably a concern for some of the activities there, but having it set back there really helps a lot of the people there. Whether it makes a difference or not is irrelevant at this point. But my concern is if we could figure out what to do with Cutler School,
Yeah.
would be brilliant.
We're hoping we do have a shot.
Yeah,
The RSA is quite clear that that's what they have to do.
even if it was gone and became access to
This is
everything.
what the statute says, that the other educational facilities, and there's a lot of charter schools looking for places to be.
Yeah.
It seems like at least when there is a transition with the school, it will give the town an opportunity to formalize the easement agreements around the property. You know, because this property does belong to the town, but it's currently utilized by Cutler.
Yeah.
And I don't believe we found any recorded easements or agreements about that utilization. So when there is a change in use, hopefully the town will take that as an opportunity to sort of revisit that.
All the buildings are on the property that the school owns, because I know they built a gymnasium and things, so that's okay.
You mentioned upgrading on the lighting and stuff like that, which I was, is definitely paramount. If you're gonna go through this trouble, you want better lighting. Does that also include all these multi-use fields or speaking of as well? I say that simply because I know some of the abutters also in this room as well, including myself. I'm concerned about, if you're gonna put up giant lights, what's that gonna do to my backyard?
Yeah.
Right.
So currently we have shown additional lights that are closer to the residential properties, and part of what needs to happen in the next phase is that those lights need to be designed. I believe that you guys already have requirements that they need to be fully shielded down past lighting, which is gonna reduce their spread of light onto adjacent properties. But I think a photometric plan is gonna be a really important part of the next phase.
And I love what's going on. I think the field needs a huge upgrade. It's really overrun. It's kind of beat up. I know a lot of people that use the field all the time. It's very popular. This is great. I don't, this is fine. But it's gonna start impacting people that live around the place. It's been here for years. Well, actually, we just gotta figure that out. So we're
Totally, and I would say the existing lighting is very, very dated. And, not only is that a huge cost impact for the town and maintaining that lighting, but it also means that there's a lot of light pollution associated with
absolutely.
that.
How much of these multi-use fields will be used after hours? Like, probably not many. A lot of kids roam around the area often. I don't, the field itself is used solely by the ball players, and it's great. And other than that, when they're done, the light shut off, it's not a problem.
Yes,
But if you're gonna illuminate the entire location, there's no way that's not gonna spread all over, so.
true, and look, what I would recommend that the town consider, I mean, again, when you move into the next phase of design, is there's LED lights now. And those lights provide the ability to really direct where the light is, as opposed to just throwing off the light in all directions. They can really sort of point it on the field, which again reduces the light pollution that's going to be bleeding. It can, eliminate light pollution potentially on the adjacent property. Yes, sir.
So another, I mean, you're concerned about lighting things, there's a couple of us here representing, baseball in the area. So just quickly, the tennis courts are actually pickleball courts.
We showed them as tennis courts because we wanted to, the tennis courts are a bigger footprint.
Yes.
And
So they-
Much bigger, yeah.
yeah, so we wanted to be able to know these things fit, because we're working at, with GIS information that's not accurate as, say, a survey on the ground. So we wanted to be able to have enough room that things would fit on there. So we know tennis courts fit, pickleball courts fit.
And it provides the town flexibility that if 20 years from now, you want to turn them into tennis courts, you have that ability. But this area can be striped for football, yes.
So from a pickleball perspective and a tennis perspective, the orientation is perfect, the same north-south.
Yeah.
I've played in a lot of places in the country, the lighting can be set up on timers.
Yep.
That basically, you turn, down on Water Street in Keene, they have them set up. Turn the knob, they stay on for 45 minutes and then they shut off. And then I've also seen other places where they cap it off at a certain time, whether it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever the round decides that you cap it.
Yes.
So that may address some of the lighting issues.
If the lighting follows the noise ordinance, I think that.
But involved for you. Yeah. So just I like the trees and stuff. One of the guys that's here that pretty much takes care of the courts and team. And trees around tennis courts and pickleball courts, although they look great, they create a lot of debris that needs to be cleaned up every single day, and it deteriorates the courts. Plus, it makes play difficult when the light comes in at certain times of the day. But I mean, I like the look of it, but the practicality of it, may not be great unless they're lower height. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
So I just want to clarify, if they were shorter trees, would that help?
Yes,
alleviate your
absolutely, yeah.
concerns? Okay, I get it.
If anybody would take a look around some of the surrounding towns, tennis courts, pickleball courts, Jonathan Daniels in Keene is near court location. There's 6 courts there. There are tall pines and they just rain debris all summer long. That's why we took the trees down at Brown Memorial Hill.
Right, it was at that line of
Right,
evergreens.
yeah, you get pine cones, needles, and
No.
it retains moisture.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think one thing we were looking at too, especially with the site visit, you know, there was not a lot of shade.
Yeah.
So I was trying to
Yeah,
find a
it's
balance
a-
here.
it is a balance, right, it's a balance, you got it, yeah.
Do you have an estimated cost to do this?
Do you have any- look it up. Taylor's gonna look it up. Did you have another comment, sir?
It's more for this group right here. I think this is great for multiple reasons. One, we're sitting on our aquifer. It's perfect. Number two, that whole corridor down Route 10, it really, this is the kind of thing that's gonna start making it look a lot more attractive. It's such a major route through our whole area, and it really could stand to have a, I don't know, lipstick, if you will. It really needs to be cleaned up a little bit down through there, because it looks kind of, if I may be so bold, it looks kind of trashy. So this kind of stuff is going to be nice to help us get this moving in a nice area. I remember back in the years when I used to do a lot of work up in Concord, they took that 93 corridor and they built all of those buildings up that 93 corridor in Concord because they wanted to have that really nice aesthetic look going through town and heading north and south. But this kind of thing will really make that area start to, you know, pick up and look nice.
If it attracts the recreation that we hope it does, it also is a boon to area businesses. I mean, it holds some of the campgrounds in the area.
Yeah.
People are asking where to go to do these activities. Where can we go? And then when people are done playing, you get stores, restaurants, breweries next door. That will all benefit.
And so the cost estimate that we got back, so the actual construction cost itself was about 2.9 million for the construction. We have a couple contingencies in there. There's a $500,000 estimate contingency. There is a $514,000 GC insurance kind of overhead contingency, which brings the estimate to about 3.9 for those contingencies. And then we did ask our cost estimator to escalate these costs for 5 years and then another 5 years. So looking at 5 years out and 10 years out. And essentially that's adding 30% to the price if you're going to push it out this far. So if to build in 2029, it's about another 1.1 million. And then if you wait to 2034, another 1.5.
Another thing that we included in the report is some suggested phasing or sequencing of this plan, because we realized that that's a pretty big bite to take all at one time. So in the report, we talk about, in the first phase, relocating the softball field and roughing in this parking, just letting it be gravel parking to start with. And then, getting sort of the base of the fields established and then coming back in potentially later and paving the parking and then formalizing the plaza and the playground areas and the different walkways. So I think that this can be sequenced in a way, but there is going to be probably an eventual bite that'll be sizable.
Who will maintain the field?
I'm going to defer to Stefan on that one.
We'll maintain it.
Who's gonna maintain the field?
DPW and recreation.
Yeah, I have two questions, and one of them is for you guys and the other, which I think for all people. So, the first, and let me just ask them both, so there's the triangle to the west that has sort of a sweeping line through it. What is the intended purpose of that space? And then my second question is, would pickleball courts still be as affected by trees if the trees that are to the west of the courts are moved onto that triangle area? So there's still, the greenery and shade and whatnot, but they're not as close to the courts themselves.
So we'll answer the first one. This area is proposed as a dog park right now.
That's the
And so you could potentially use that.
These are big, big questions.
Were there other questions?
I do have one small, regarding you talked about creating the seating, features and stuff, how, is that shown on this map, or do you got kind of an idea, I mean?
Yeah, so these are the dugout buildings here, and then the bleachers are, these.
Fair amount, I mean, you're adding a lot more parking, so you may end up having a lot more people that are gonna be showing up to this event. Maybe look at increasing your seating, seems like a little small for your map. During the summer, and I've been there for, I'm almost 20 years in Swanzey, so I've seen a lot of, there's a lot of groups of people that go out there.
Yeah.
People with families, people spend the day there, whatever, afternoon or evening, whatever, like. Look at what's there and then. At least up there.
Yeah, those are
You're not
showing there.
Fair enough,
It's hard to get a sense of the scale, because we're really,
But if you're gonna double the parking, you might just, you're gonna double people.
Absolutely. yep.
Yes, sir.
To the north side of the pickleball or tennis courts, that whole area there extending down towards the Cutler's Field, is that all going to be parking also?
Just this area is parking, this is vehicular circulation, because this area is currently used, our understanding is it's currently used for bus circulation in and around the school. So we do propose to carve out some parking here, but wanted to allow the buses to continue.
How many parking bigger vehicles in there? That would be for,
I think 15.
5-0.
1-5.
1-5 right here. Were there other questions, folks in the back?
Important is the lighting on that multi-purpose field. The multi-purpose field, how important is the lighting on that? Because that's the field that affects the most residential areas, right?
Yeah, I
The
think,
other ones are towards, the top there, towards,
Right.
there's residential in the backyard, but there's commercial on the left-hand side there.
I think if we were to drop them, it would be from that field.
I think that's a really
It would be
good
from that
question
field, yeah.
to ask Ashley. So this is a smaller field, and depending on how the town and especially the recreation department plans to program this area, it might be that lighting's not needed over here, especially if it's geared toward youth sports that are not, you don't want to have little kids staying up really late. But I think that I can write that down. I've been taking notes of the feedback, write that down, and we can post that to Ashley.
Where do you envision the ice rink?
Have to take that up with the town.
Like a multi-purpose, like spot. It's not sure that's. Is it gonna be? So in the winter.
Is
I
it,
want to have some lighting.
is it gonna be any playground equipment there?
Yeah, there is, there's both of these are two separate, fenced in play areas with, playground equipment. And we fence them in, and kind of separate them to have multi-age.
I guess I just have one more final thing. Cutler School, you mentioned buses. Where are they gonna be coming in, going through? I mean, if this was absorbed by another entity, would they have access to all of this for buses and whatnot, or would they be isolated in their own
What
spot?
you'd have to do is look at the deed and see if that's part of the school, is it part of the brown field? That all depend on what that deed read. They would probably want that if they had, like,
Oh, geez, yeah.
but if it's a small charter. school,
Because I know they use that now. Okay, well, that's something.
Generally
Yeah.
speaking, there's no public transportation for a charter school. Even though charter schools are public schools.
Interesting. Yeah.
So this is part of the property of Brownfield.
Yes.
But
And
I
whether it's cut off right there and whether they would have access to your new complex to service that school. If somebody else took over that school.
don't know if there is an easement over this area to the benefit of the school. That's the question.
She should have the attorneys look at that.
Yeah,
They can
Yeah.
look deep. I would suggest they do that out.
Yep.
So that we don't get to school. That you know what, it's actually ours, but what's not ours.
absolutely.
Yeah, 'cause we don't have, if they have access to that, that could be a really busy area right through there. Yeah.
Sorry. I don't recall if you mentioned or not. Will there be lighting for the soccer field?
There is currently lighting proposed for this field around the softball field and on this one here, and that's what folks were just asking if the lighting on this smaller soccer field could be dropped.
Could be moved. It's the big boards. I mean,
I don't know if we have any ways to-
no, we got one here, but now add some.
Well, does have a residual amount of money.
It does have noise to it. Yep.
Yeah, I know people that are looking here.
Yep, yeah. Well, I'm guessing, I mean, people play it on Water Street, probably to. Ish.
But the lights are on them.
They're on the time, so I think it's a little, in the middle of the summer, when it's really hot in the middle of the day, you know, go up, and it's typically your younger advanced players that are playing in the evening because they're working, and your older players, like myself, it's like in the morning, it's cool, the middle of the day, it's like, you might get something, but it's usually the morning.
Right.
Larger routes there. Yeah, I understand your concern.
Any other questions or feedback? Yes, sir.
Just a question, so the part that's not covered there is the Swanzey Museum, and I know there's some discussion about possibly adding on to that, and possibly is a concern for that. So, I mean, there is parking available here, it's certainly not a volume museum. But also people coming to the game and waiting for their child might actually want to walk over to the museum if it happens to be open. So would there be access from the parking lot to that museum property?
That's not currently depicted, but I think that's an opportunity to wrap into the next phase. You know, I don't think that we had anyone from the museum to our feedback sessions to offer that. But I mean, there is an opportunity to provide a connection, especially without the pedestrian connection there.
There's an existing connection already. I mean, it's within a short.
Yeah, it's very
It's
close.
kind of fair.
Yes, as long as I didn't know there'd be a fence there, that's why I was more inquiring, so. I'll reach out, make sure they don't miss the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else?
If the town is gonna maintain that, is there a place for a maintenance shed?
Yep, right there.
Okay.
Yeah, try to make it easy so they could drive straight in. Anyone else?
Is the yellow around like the soccer field there, so no, the yellow strip around the soccer field, is that a walkway?
Yes.
So all yellow walkways, so.
Yeah, exactly, kind of comes through the whole site, down around.
Is that where the spectators would be standing to watch those games?
So we have bleachers shown here,
How about the soccer field?
right in here. Yeah, so they could go here, but there's also some grassy area here that if they had folding chairs or something like that, they could bring those in. If the town wanted to add bleachers in this area for the soccer field, they certainly could.
Room for that area.
Yep.
You only need them on one side, because in a soccer match, you do not want the parents and the spectators on the same side as them. I'm an old soccer coach, and you just don't want. The coaches don't want to hear their parents saying, "Oh, good, my guy's not the next P later," or whatever, you know.
And you pretty much said that the pickleball courts would not be lit, correct?
At this point, they are not shown as being lit, but again, this is very high level and I've been taking notes on your feedback. So if that's something that in the next, when this moves into the design phase, if that's what you'd like to see, I mean, the next designer that picks this up could certainly make that adjustment.
These guys over here play pickleball, I'm assuming, so you usually play at night as well, or was there?
Yes, yeah, we just had that discussion. The younger people that are working during the day, they will typically come out and play from 4. I mean, I just left their session at 4 to 7. Those courts aren't lit. There's another set of courts that are lit. On timer, and people will just show up with their stuff. They go like, I think it was wrong. I'm not positive. I think there's. Not positive, but that's sort of up to the town whether that is. It might be that they're lit. I mean, in future meetings, it sounds like they may be lit over there, which again, that's more towards the commercial part of that lot, so. Right, not much of a problem.
Play pretty much throughout the year.
In the winter time, you typically don't, it goes from basically, well, yeah, once it starts snowing, you don't want to be out there with snow shovels, tearing up the roads, resurface them, costly, so, yeah, everything was indoors.
How do they pay for the lighting routine?
That I don't know. It must be, it's gotta be, what do you think, Don, recreation department? It's gotta be tied to them, right? I think it would be a good question to ask, Andy Cohen.
Doesn't matter, what it looks like, pay our line. It doesn't really matter, okay,
Oh, if you talk about it.
Well, you should pay for it, right? Should be for the weekend.
any other questions? From anybody? And it was a good presentation, thank you very much for coming and showing us what you've done so far. So will you be back again then? We expect you back again, yes, no?
This is the end of our contract. I would expect that the next phase would be that the town would put together an RFP to bid out the design work, and we'd love to have the opportunity to bid on that.
Good, great, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Show me with my host.
Good night. Good to see you.
Any other business? Maybe requirements. Anybody on the board? Very useful. Anybody else? If not, I have. Just have one more question. Obviously, I do it every time. Right now, looking at reviewing or looking at zoning. There is FWF is not part of the area of there. Raise all. Why wasn't their state that's done for site solver? And that is drivers are all free to look at that side. Where they can, to make our looks. The question I just would need to them, why wasn't this presented to us on the initial plot? Why wasn't it shown to us what size? Pardon?
It was on the initial plan, it just didn't.
So it's, they got the variance before, so they didn't.
No, when it's signed. This was.
It was on the plan. They were- So they were shown on there as a way from it before they got the variance. So it was on the plan. They take it off the plan. You did it. Really showing what- so that wasn't on the actual plan. That was definitely-
It was.
It was approved as shown on the plan. And it's shown where they're gonna put it.
Yes.
Is that what's gonna be where it was shown on the plan?
Yes.
Because generally, yeah, they get the variance for another sign that exceeds the square footage of our sign ordinance. Or usually get to say it's where it's going on the flat, on the CBA. They just tell us, or they just make a decision. Can you go over what's allowed? Planning board. Where you are. So,
It wasn't oversized, it was within size, but it was the fact that it was an additional sign, because you only get one sign per business. You get one freestanding sign per business, and one attached sign per business.
yeah, that's like. Understanding.
No, this is a package, so it's actually a package, yeah. This is like, say you're standing at neighbors looking north. Yeah, it's on that side.
All of a sudden, they're loading dock or
Yeah,
receiving dock.
well,
I think I don't recall that. I'm sorry.
He signed it to direct truck traffic.
It's just a lot.
Yeah, it's not specifically say truck. That's.
It's just so they know.
About 500.
You think it's so good?
You have my plans on the.
Yes.
I think they were all part of the. Was the rest of it.
I thought I had heard that as well. At one of our meetings, something about schools on their direction, one driveway. For delivery, so that's not the sign, maybe they drop that. They're just having a little sign.
I know, and I thought about it. It's not.
If it was on the site, that, anyways, it's. So none of them was on there.
It's not.
Yeah.
None of them are- One of them actually had it open.
I'm sorry to drag yourself out, I just want to see it. What it was.
It's just my concern. Like.
Okay, that's the way. That's why.
We only have a.
So I said,
I can see maybe some recall or something. Yeah.
These are all gonna be publicly available as well, so if you wanna get copies.
anything else? All the purposes? Yeah.
Yeah, look at it.
And then vote out the first environment, is it?
Yeah.
Brandon, yep, seconded by Mark, further discussion? All those in favor, they hit saying aye.
Yeah, how, I made it all online.
That's a surprise. I
I don't have to sit around, I just want to see the answer.
Yeah.
You seconded?
Yeah.